Look at yourself. Right now, you probably feel a heavy, warm fog behind your eyes. You blame the missing coffee, the bad weather, or your miserable job. You are dead wrong. Your chronic fatigue isn't a modern disease. It's a 50,000-year-old survival program turning you into a vegetable to keep you alive. Nature spent millions of years building an apex predator, a machine built to run for miles under a burning sun. Meet Proto. His body was a masterpiece of energy efficiency. In his world, calories were a luxury, and starvation followed him like a shadow. To survive, Proto's DNA developed a dark trick: extreme, paralyzing laziness, the exact second he was safe. In the wild, laziness was an evolutionary superpower. Then, the world flipped. We locked this Ice Age hunter inside a concrete cubicle. Today, your brain suffocates under deadlines. Your ancient DNA panics and makes a fatal mistake. It looks at your screen, senses stress, and assumes you are starving in a barren wasteland. So, it pulls the emergency brake. It locks down your energy, slows your heart, and floods your brain with toxic fog. If this setup sounds terrifyingly familiar, smash the like button so the algorithm knows you're awake. You aren't broken. You're just trapped. Welcome to Proto, the Lost Files. 50,000 years ago, survival wasn't a cinematic adventure. It was a brutal numbers game, governed by pure thermodynamics. Every single movement through the razor-sharp grass of the prehistoric savanna cost a specific, non-negotiable number of calories. Calories weren't something you tracked on a sleek app to look good at the beach. They were the ultimate currency of the Pleistocene epoch, and the market was permanently crashing. Proto didn't have a local supermarket. He had to hunt, forage, and fight for every single scrap of nutrition. If he spent more energy tracking an animal than its fat provided in return, he lost capital. He went into a deficit. In primeval nature, a deficit meant a slow, lonely death. Modern fitness gurus love to portray our ancestors as hyperactive models constantly running just to test their limits. That's a lie designed to sell gym memberships. Nature never rewarded pointless hyperactivity. It slaughtered it. The survivors were those who perfected the biological skill of doing absolutely nothing when survival didn't demand it. Let us look at the reality. Imagine Proto after a brutal 3-day hunt. His tribe successfully brought down a massive woolly mammoth and dragged the carcass back to their limestone cave. His belly is stuffed with raw protein and rich fat. The immediate crisis has passed. For the next 3 days, Proto has 0 reasons to move. Do you honestly believe his brain tells him to go for a casual morning jog to maintain cardiovascular health? Does his conscience make him feel guilty for sitting in the dirt? Never. The concept would sound insane to him. The exact second external pressure dropped, Proto's ancient DNA took total control. It flooded his body with a heavy, drug-like lethargy. It locked his muscles like lead weights, slowed his heart to a crawl, and shut down his analytical mind. This wasn't a moral failure. It was a sophisticated biological vault. Proto was hoarding every single watt of metabolic power because his subconscious understood a terrifying truth. The next famine or predator attack was always waiting in the shadows. Pacing around the cave meant wasting the raw, explosive strength required to sprint for his life later. If you know a coworker who needs to hear this, share this video with them right now. This is the Savannah Energy Bank, an ironclad system built for extreme scarcity. It kept your ancestors alive through ice ages and collapsing ecosystems. The absolute tragedy of the modern condition is that your 21st century body still runs on this exact primitive software without a single bug fix. Your genome operates on a simple binary law. If you are stationary and not fleeing a monster,
you are safe. And if you are safe, you must shut down all non-essential systems to conserve fuel. Save power at all costs. Turn off the expensive lights in the upper floors of the brain.
The fatal trap is that your body defines safety through physical stillness. It doesn't know the difference between a cave and an office. When you sit in an ergonomic chair staring at a monitor for 8 hours, your genome reads the situation completely wrong. It assumes you won the evolutionary lottery and are resting after the biggest hunt of your life. It has no concept of a corporate job or monthly rent. It only knows your limbs are still. Flipping the master metabolic switch, your DNA pulls the emergency brake. To prevent what it perceives as dangerous energy waste, it cuts the power supply to your prefrontal cortex, the part you desperately need to focus and create. It slows your thyroid, alters insulin sensitivity, and hoards every calorie as emergency fat. You walk away from your desk at 5 p.m. feeling completely destroyed, yet you didn't lift a single heavy object. Your body did nothing but sit still. You feel exhausted because your prehistoric DNA thinks it's a matter of life and death to force you into a state of deep, protective hibernation. You are trying to run a high-speed digital empire using the engine of a creature built to sit quietly in the dark, stare at a stone wall, and wait for the winter to end. We took the ultimate endurance predator, a biological masterpiece engineered to track megafauna across hundreds of miles of burning savanna, and locked it inside a carpeted corporate cubicle. We broke the machine completely. The modern corporate landscape is a profound, unregulated biological crime scene, and your body is the primary victim. For millions of years, acute physiological stress had a purely physical resolution. When Proto felt his pulse racing like a war drum and adrenaline surging, it never signaled an abstract crisis about a bank account or a performance review. It meant he was either chasing his next meal or sprinting away from the jaws of a hyper-carnivore. The ancestral stress response was high-octane chemical fuel injected directly into skeletal muscles, demanding immediate, violent movement. You ran until your lungs bled, or you died on the spot. The massive chemical storm inside the blood always ended with extreme physical exertion, which naturally burned off toxic systemic waste and signaled to the nervous system that the threat was neutralized. Only then could the body descend into deep, restorative neurochemical rest. Now look at a typical Tuesday morning. You are sitting motionless in a gridlocked traffic jam, or staring blankly at a passive-aggressive email. Your smartphone flashes red. A critical deadline has slipped. Your ancient amygdala sounds the catastrophic emergency alarm. This piece of brain tissue doesn't know what an email is. It only speaks the raw dialect of immediate danger. It commands your adrenal glands to dump an aggressive, toxic cocktail of cortisol, adrenaline, and glucose straight into your bloodstream. Your blood pressure spikes. Your heart beats violently against your ribcage like an animal trapped in a crate. Every single biological alarm system is screaming at you to execute a physical action. Drop a comment below if you felt your heart race just from a single notification. But you do absolutely nothing. Social decorum forces you to sit completely still. You grip your cheap plastic mouse tighter, swallow your rage, and stare into the glowing white rectangle of your laptop. Your skeletal muscles remain unnaturally stationary, while a toxic hurricane of survival chemistry rages unresolved inside your veins. The adrenaline has nowhere to go. Glucose floats aimlessly, damaging your blood vessels and forcing your pancreas to pump out massive insulin to clear the unspent energy spike. This is where Proto's 50,000-year-old DNA utterly loses its sanity. In the wild, experiencing high terror combined with total physical immobility meant you were pinned helpless under a collapsed boulder or cornered by a predator. If you were terrified but entirely frozen, you were under a deadly, claustrophobic siege. The default survival protocol for an environmental siege is absolute energy conservation. The genome automatically assumes a catastrophic famine has arrived, and your only hope of avoiding death is to burn as little biological fuel as humanly possible. To save you from this imaginary modern famine, your ancestral system pulls the master power plug. It aggressively downregulates your entire metabolic energy output, slowing your thyroid to a crawl and forcing your brain into a thick, suffocating layer of protective cognitive fog. This brain fog is an intentional defensive shield. Your DNA is deliberately starving your higher executive functions because high-level analytical thinking burns an enormous amount of precious calories. The system panics and converts the lunch you ate at your desk into stubborn, inflammatory, visceral fat instead of active, usable energy. You feel deeply sluggish and profoundly tired because your ancient biology is forcing you to stay still and wait out a storm that doesn't exist. The horror deepens when you realize this is your permanent baseline. Day after day, you pile new psychological threats on top of old, unspent biochemical storms. Cortisol becomes a chronic, corrosive tenant in your brain tissue, actively shrinking your hippocampus and destroying your capacity to form new memories while making you hyper-reactive to even smaller triggers. You try to fight this biological lockdown using artificial neurostimulants. You pour toxic amounts of cheap caffeine and chemical energy drinks into your system, forcing an already exhausted engine to run faster. The coffee doesn't give you real energy. It merely borrows power from your future, forcing overexhausted adrenal glands to scrape the bottom of an empty barrel. You are living as a prisoner inside a profound biological paradox. Your mind is running an endless marathon of anxiety, while your skeletal body is locked inside a tight cage of concrete and glass. Your ancient protective DNA is simply doing precisely what it was programmed to do 50,000 years ago. It turns off the power grid until the invisible monster leaves the cave. Dopamine is the most profoundly misunderstood molecule in modern popular psychology. The internet constantly tells you it's the chemical of pleasure, a tiny neurochemical reward your brain gives you when you eat a cheat meal or get a vanity like on a photo. That is a comforting, childish lie. Dopamine has absolutely nothing to do with pleasure, satisfaction, or joy. It is the molecule of anticipation, intense motivation, and energy mobilization. It is a harsh, biological whip. In the primeval wilderness, your brain didn't secrete dopamine because you successfully achieved something. It flooded your nervous system because you recognized a sensory pattern suggesting a reward was potentially close. It was the evolutionary trigger that commanded your body to unlock its strictly guarded energy reserves. When Proto caught the faint scent of an animal on the wind, his brain didn't experience happiness. It experienced an aggressive, sharp, and highly concentrated spike of dopamine. This chemical surge instantly overrode the default laziness protocol, dilated his pupils, focused his attention like a laser beam, and unlocked a massive wave of clean, raw physical energy. It literally forced him to move. Dopamine was a direct, legally binding contract between desire and severe physical effort. No effort, no reward. That was the unyielding physics of the Ice Age landscape. Every single drop of dopamine Proto ever experienced had to be paid for entirely in advance with heavy, exhausting muscular labor. If he wanted the sweet taste of wild honey, he had to risk his life climbing a dangerous cliff face while being violently stung by angry insects. The reward was always hidden behind a massive wall of physical suffering. Because of this, Proto's neurochemistry stayed in a state of perfect equilibrium. His dopamine receptors were incredibly sensitive because spikes were rare, hard-earned events. When he finally achieved his goal, a completely different set of chemicals took over, endorphins and serotonin, which brought physical satisfaction, numbed his pain, and allowed him to safely slide back into that deep, protective laziness inside the cave. You want something? You suffer physically to get it. You get it? You rest and fully recover. The neural circuitry was perfectly calibrated to match the physical environment. Now, welcome to the modern psychological slaughterhouse. We have completely severed the sacred, ancient link between dopamine mobilization and physical effort. We engineered a synthetic environment where you can access cosmic levels of dopamine reward while remaining entirely motionless on a memory foam mattress. You don't need to track a wild beast for 3 agonizing days to feel the visceral thrill of the hunt. You just open a dating app or refresh a social feed with a flick of your thumb. You don't need to risk your life scaling a cliff for sugar. You press a couple of buttons on a glass smartphone screen, and a stranger delivers a hyper-palatable bomb of processed calories straight to your front door. Your brain is exposed to a relentless artillery bombardment of cheap, effort-free dopamine signals every single minute of the day. Video games, endless scrolling, algorithmic notifications. Each one perfectly mimics the evolutionary triggers of crucial survival rewards. Your ancient brain looks at the glowing screen and sincerely believes you are winning 1,000 survival battles every hour. But your physical body is just sitting in a dark, stagnant room, slouched miserably over a plastic desk, slowly rotting from inactivity. If you want to claim your independence from the Matrix, hit that subscribe button right now. This unnatural overstimulation causes an immediate systemic crash known as neurochemical bankruptcy. Your brain is a brilliant survival homeostat. It quickly realizes that this unnatural torrent of dopamine is highly dangerous, threatening to burn out your delicate neural pathways. To protect itself, it executes a brutal countermeasure. It downregulates your dopamine receptors, pulling them deep inside the cell walls. It is the biological equivalent of plugging your ears during a deafening, continuous explosion. Because your receptors are fried, the normal, baseline things that used to mobilize your energy, like cleaning your room, reading a complex book, or building a business, no longer register. The whip no longer hurts, so the horse refuses to move. You find yourself trapped in a state of chronic, heavy anhedonia. You feel empty, unmotivated, and perpetually exhausted because you have completely drained your neurochemical fuel tank. You aren't lazy. You have simply broken the very mechanism your body uses to generate physical motivation. This profound exhaustion is further compounded by the absolute destruction of our ancestral sleep architecture. In Proto's world, the sun was the undisputed master of behavior. When the sun went down, the savanna turned into a pitch-black, deeply terrifying kingdom of apex predators. Proto crawled into the deepest corner of his cave, pulled a heavy animal fur over his shoulders, and went to sleep. The total absence of light signaled his pineal gland to flood his brain with a massive wave of melatonin. This hormone didn't just make him sleepy. It initiated a deep, systemic cellular repair protocol, clearing out metabolic waste from his brain tissue and resetting his nervous system for the next day's battles. Today, we live under a regime of perpetual artificial daylight. We carry miniature, blindingly bright suns inside our pockets and hold them inches from our faces at midnight. The cold blue light emitting from your smartphone screen hits specialized photoreceptors in your eyes and sends a panic signal straight to your master biological clock, screaming that it is noon in the middle of the savannah. As a direct result, your melatonin production is instantly strangled. Even if you force yourself to sleep, your sleep architecture is completely ruined, trapped in a shallow, fragmented state of semi-consciousness. Your brain never enters the deep, restorative phases of slow-wave sleep required to wash away the toxic debris of daily stress. You spend 8 hours in bed, but you wake up feeling like you were hit by a truck. You are chronically tired because your biological engine never truly cools down. You are trying to run a prehistoric machine 24 hours a day under neon lights, completely cut off from the darkness that heals it. You are locked in a vicious loop, using cheap rewards to escape the fatigue caused by those very same rewards. You cannot upgrade your 50,000-year-old operating system. You cannot download a software patch for a genetic blueprint written in blood, hunger, and Pleistocene ice. All those expensive smartwatch apps, corporate mindfulness seminars, and shiny biohacking gadgets are completely useless band-aids on a gaping evolutionary wound. They fail because they try to convince your mind to ignore what your cells know to be true. If you want to escape this chronic state of protective hibernation, you must stop arguing with your hardware and start feeding it the exact physical signals it expects. Your body doesn't care about your intellectual ambitions or your corporate career goals. It only interprets the cold, binary language of survival: light, temperature, movement, and scarcity. To wake the machine up, you must systematically trick your ancient genome into believing that the imaginary siege has ended, the famine is over, and the tribe is actively back on the hunt. The first lever you must pull is the deliberate reintroduction of physical crisis. When you sit in a state of comfortable, climate-controlled office paralysis for days on end, your DNA naturally concludes that you are safely hiding inside a deep cave during a harsh winter freeze. It turns off the lights on the upper floors of your brain because it firmly believes thinking is a reckless waste of metabolic energy. You have to physically shock your nervous system out of its cave. The moment you step into an ice-cold shower or submerge your body in freezing water, your ancient genome experiences an immediate, non-negotiable existential emergency. It doesn't see a modern luxury bathroom. It sees Proto falling through thin ice into a freezing primeval river. The amygdala triggers a massive, sudden surge of noradrenaline and dopamine that lasts for hours. This is a biological override of the highest order. The intense cold tells your metabolism that survival demands absolute cognitive clarity, explosive physical power, and immediate action. It forces the mitochondrial engines in your cells to drastically ramp up heat production, instantly melting away the thick layer of morning brain fog. The same principle applies to heavy, intense muscular resistance. When you lift a heavy iron bar off the concrete floor until your muscles scream, your DNA doesn't care about hypertrophy or aesthetic vanity. It assumes a massive boulder has collapsed onto your shelter or a dangerous predator is actively pinning you to the dirt. It opens the biological vault and floods your system with real, raw physical energy because it believes that remaining weak means immediate death. You must move violently to survive. The second phase of the protocol requires the immediate, ruthless elimination of unearned neurochemical rewards. You must stop buying high-grade dopamine with cheap digital currency. Every single time you refresh an algorithmic social media feed, click on a hyper-stimulating video, or consume processed, calorie-dense foods without performing prior physical labor, you are actively driving your nervous system deeper into evolutionary bankruptcy. You are desensitizing the very receptors that were designed to give you motivation, focus, and drive. To fix this broken circuitry, you must enforce a strict regime of friction. You must make the reward difficult to access again. Relink desire with severe effort. Force your brain to climb the cliff before it gets a taste of the honey. When you deliberately introduce a massive wall of physical or mental friction between your impulses and your rewards, an incredible biological shift occurs. Your fried dopamine receptors slowly begin to heal, migrating back to the surface and recovering their natural sensitivity. Suddenly, the difficult tasks of your real life start to register in your brain again. The evolutionary whip regains its edge, and the horse moves forward naturally without the need for artificial, toxic chemical stimulants. Finally, you must reclaim the sovereign sanctity of the primeval night. You must systematically banish the miniature digital suns that pollute your bedroom environment. The blue light bleeding from your smartphone screen at midnight is an evolutionary anomaly that utterly paralyzes your pineal gland, telling your biological clock that the sun is burning brightly at high noon in the middle of the open savanna, completely strangling the natural production of melatonin. You must enforce absolute, uncompromising darkness. When the sun goes down,
Your artificial environment must mimic the deep obscurity of Proto's limestone cave. Kill the overhead screens. Put your phone in another room. Let the darkness do its ancient restorative work. Deep sleep is not a luxury. It is an aggressive neurochemical cleaning protocol.
It is the only time your brain can open its internal valves, flood its tissues with cerebrospinal fluid, and literally wash away the toxic metabolic debris accumulated during a day of intense stress. It is the mechanism that resets your emotional baseline, repairs your cellular damage, and restores your metabolic insulin sensitivity. When you honor the darkness, you wake up with a clean, fully charged biological engine that is ready to conquer the world. This is not a lifestyle choice. It is an act of open rebellion against a synthetic civilization designed to exploit your ancient survival protocols for profit. The algorithms know your code. They know that Proto will always choose the path of least resistance when he feels safe, because that choice used to save his life. Every piece of modern technology is engineered to keep you stationary, overstimulated, and exhausted. They want you compliant, resting in your digital cave, consuming endlessly while your biological health deteriorates. To break the glitch, you must become conscious of the trap. You must realize that your chronic fatigue is not a personal failure of character, but a systemic response to an artificial environment. You are an elite hunter, forced to live like a battery. The moment you change the inputs, the entire system realigns itself. Your energy returns, your focus sharpens, and the heavy fog behind your eyes evaporates. Look in the mirror. You are not a broken, fragile, modern creature suffering from a mysterious lack of motivation or an incurable psychological disorder. You are an apex endurance predator, a magnificent machine built to run for miles, endure extreme hardships, and conquer hostile landscapes. You are simply trapped inside a synthetic cage that is feeding the wrong data into your flawless evolutionary software. The chronic fatigue and suffocating brain fog are not defects. They are defensive reactions of an ancient blueprint trying to save you from a reality it cannot comprehend. Change the signals you feed your cells. Step out of the cave of physical paralysis. Embrace the cold, welcome the friction, and honor the healing darkness. It is time to unlock the cage, reset the glitch, and reclaim your sovereign power. This file is now closed, but the archive is endless, and the investigation into our broken biology has just begun. Subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts, and don't let the machine put you back to sleep. See you in the next file of Proto, the Lost Files.